power.
Damn it, it wasn't even on.
which the United States simply doesn't have. That's why the smelters are built particularly in Quebec, where they got all the cheap power they can't sell. They have to beg to sell it to the Americans, but not quite. And why we built this big refinery up in Kitimat, which is in the middle of absolutely nowhere. The only good thing about Kitimat is got a port so you can bring bauxite in from the equator, process it at Kitimat where there's a dam. That's the only thing Kitimat has is a dam, a big power dam.
Yeah.
And that produces ample supplies of aluminium. Well, Kitimat's the least of it. The big ones are in Quebec. And all this aluminum
Yep.
was going into the U.S. refining industry, where you take the metal and you turn it into alloys and into various high-quality products. Perfectly good system, except that the U.S. cannot possibly ever produce it. They had about 4% of the overall demand that they had. Along comes the stupid tariff, and how stupid. Yeah. You're basically penalizing an import that you totally depend on, and you need it to be cheap, not expensive. And he just made it expensive. Well, all these aluminium factories in the U.S. have what I call an existential problem. The only way they can stay in business for both the North American market and the global market is to pick up their entire factory, pick up all their employees, and go north of the border.
And go to Canada?
Yes.
Brilliant, yeah.
There's about 8 million people in the U.S. dependent on Canadian jobs even, who all now need to save their jobs, need to move across the border, become immigrants in Canada. And that could be very easy because it's easy to do, because there's not just 8 million people, we're talking about 8 million families.
Exactly. Yeah, 100. Yeah, exactly. Tough.
So basically, they created a situation where maybe 20 to 30
doubling
million
our population.
Americans need to become Canadians.
I was going to say, we're doubling our population right now.
Yeah, now. And that's the existential threat created by this blunder. And I call it a blunder. Had it been anybody done their homework, they never would have done this. And this blunder applies to just about everything else that's been dealt with, but in particular it applies to aluminium. Doesn't apply so much to steel, because everybody produces steel of some sort. And of course, Canada's response to steel tariffs, don't forget that the steel, once again, when it comes to international trade, you have what I call gentlemen's agreements. The U.S. pipe rolling industry, oil field supply industry has been pumping steel product pipeline equipment into Canada in the West, whereas Ontario steel manufacturing has been sold directly into the automobile industry right over the border. So the steel flows for Canada actually balanced out. 1 million tons went south.
Yeah,
over the
exactly.
border for auto. 1 million tons came the other way.
That's right.
Well,
and now we're going to tariff
now
it.
you're tariffing it. Well, we just decided we're going to now do it all ourselves, which means we stop buying U.S. pipes. We start making them ourselves in Canada and start shipping them west. And we got a great corridor for doing that with the rail link between Toronto and Prince Rupert.
The rail system's so happy now.
Oh,
we're starting our trains again, for real.
Yeah. So we can pump steel all day and all night because we can produce it. And the real kiss here is that as soon as this trade war started, we started shipping volume, cut major deals to sell our aluminium out of Quebec directly into Europe. Europe desperately needs a secure supply of aluminium.
Ooh, that's good.
Particularly Germany. The supply had been coming out of mostly Norway, which also has power. Has the hydropower, same reason. But of course, markets have expanded. Europe needs way more aluminum than Norway can produce. along comes Quebec with all the aluminium they want that they used to sell to the U.S.
And no one to buy it. That's good.
And yes, they'll buy as much as they can get their bits on.
Wonderful.
Okay, and that was one. That means that supply of aluminium has just exited the North American market and is never going to come back into the U.S. And so whatever it is that you have a major adjustment on the supply chain that basically turns the U.S. aluminum manufacturing market from being the priority customer to being back of the line.
100%.
And that's a huge liability. Okay? And we've seen other stupid things happen. I mean, it takes a bit of thinking, but Mexico got fed up with this bullshit. They cut a deal with Canada to have Canada take over the Mexican milk market. Hello?
Oh.
Don't forget, Mexico was getting the bulk of its milk from, guess where? Minnesota and northern U.S. Except that the distance by truck from southern Ontario to Mexico is the same distance from Minnesota or New York. It makes no difference. It just means a different flag. Well, this royally screws the American dairy industry because they lose 20% of their export market.
Wow.
Canada picks it up, which means Canada's dairy can now take higher quotas. Those farmers who've got 100 cows can now produce more milk, and they don't have to dump it into
Yeah, exactly. 100%. They always waste things like that.
So this is a big boost for Canadian agriculture.
Wow.
And the other thing that I like to say is that Canada's export markets have always been in the shadow of the U.S. export markets because the U.S. was there first. They were shipping wheat to Europe first.
Oh.
They were shipping corn to China first.
Oh, so you already established those relationships and already had that bargaining chip.
Done.
Everything's already set up.
And no matter what we did to improve things,
Yeah.
we had to wait in line.
Wait in turn. Wait in turn.
And there were, and I have to say this loud, there
Wow.
always are gentlemen's agreements. No, you got the Italian market. We won't send our salesman over there to go and convince the
Tap it.
Italians to screw with your market, but you let us play here. So
Yeah.
those types of agreements have always been in place. Well, this tariff bullshit turns it on its head, and all the economic advantages that Canada has in its trade system, which have built up over the decades, and particularly including the St. Lawrence Seaway, we can load a ship in, well, even in Chicago, bringing in the grain from Saskatchewan,
Yeah.
can come into Chicago, go on ship, and cruise out through the St. Lawrence Seaway and end up in Rotterdam.
Where's
Much easier than going down the Mississippi by barge to
Where's Rotterdam?
Holland.
In Holland. Okay.
So don't forget, all the wheat that goes to Europe goes down the Mississippi to New Orleans, which is already practically at the equator, has to sail around Florida and boogie up to Rotterdam, same place that and whereas the St. Lawrence, the distance is days faster and way more convenient. And we don't have to go and load in Chicago. We can keep it on the train for another 500 miles and drop it off in Toronto or Montreal.
Exactly.
All in the same corridor. So the most important trade corridor in North America
Person coming right now.
is in fact the St. Lawrence.
And right now, because of the
Yeah.
chlorophyll, all the leaves look green. But that's actually not their true color.
No, we're good. Thank you.
Is in fact the St. Lawrence Great Lakes system, which has taken a century of building to get to make it work properly. Okay, and it still has to be. Lots of improvements have to be made, but it can handle those large bulk carriers and those ships. They were designed for that, and that's already in place 60 years. Okay?
They're experts.
And it's and again, it can haul all the grain you want and all the agricultural products to Europe very quickly. And that's just the obvious, okay, stuff that we all know about. So this is a huge advantage against hauling things down the Mississippi. In fact, there's good arguments for all the grain in Ohio and raised in all that stuff being shipped up to Chicago and put on rail or put on boat to go to Europe. Move that way. So the bulk of the northern half of the U.S. should be shipping into the Great Lakes. Okay, technically. But tradition and old routes have, contained that traffic and held on to their market share. All this tariff outrage does is turn it on its head and is allowing Canada to make hay. We're now getting to go and cut all the deals we never could quite cut
Wow.
back in the day.
It's crazy.
Which is
Thank you, Trump.
which is means that U.S. agriculture is getting screwed over
Yeah,
big
no
time.
kidding. That sucks.
Because the natural economic advantage was always with the Great Lakes route in Canada itself. And don't forget, we're finally going to get serious about Churchill. A proper rail link line rebuilt into Churchill, put a container port in there.
It's in Ontario, right?
Churchill is in Manitoba,
Manitoba, okay.
but it's on Hudson Bay.
Oh, that's good. Okay.
But you've got 6 months of sailing time in reality, as long as you got
Even
an
the snow?
icebreaker at work. Okay?
Yeah, I was gonna say. It's
And
like,
by the way, we are now focused on getting on top of the icebreaker business because we just joint ventured or bought control of the best shipbuilding operation in Finland. So the Quebec shipbuilder has bought the Finnish shipbuilder. So we are the dominant icebreaker manufacturer because we're going to need more than one. We're going to need a lot. We need to have a steady supply of icebreakers. But that means opening up Hudson's Bay, and all of a sudden, Prince Rupert to Churchill, properly turned into a rail link, means I can move containers 2 days across. I can unload containers from Asia at Prince Rupert, put them 3 days later, they're in Churchill, onto another ship going to Europe.
how long will it take for them to build all this out to make it actually work in real life?
Well, in real life,
5-6 years?
several years.
Yeah. 10 years?
Several years.
How many years? 20 years?
No, less than that. The fact is, the intent to do it has started. They realized this is an advantage. We don't need to be listening to. We got lots of options. Don't forget, we do have the northern rail links through CPR all into Toronto from across Ontario. We can move goods that way. But the best route has always been through Chicago because it's all flat. Mm-hmm. And the other thing is, they can't interfere with it. You know why they can't interfere? Everything that goes into the Midwest is best shipped by way of Prince Rupert, not by Seattle or Los Angeles. You had 2 or 3 days of sailing, and you had 2 or 3 days of rail haulage if you go that route. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, you offload in Prince Rupert, it goes up a very short climb to get onto the top of the pass out of Prince Rupert. Then it's rolling downhill all the way to Chicago at speed. 70 miles an hour, 4 miles of train, boom, one after the other. And that can go on a double lane track all the way, high speed track, all designed for high volume, high supply. I said the only add-on is that we can run a branch up to, make a really good branch to Churchill to again circumvent that part of the, we make a big shortcut for transporting goods to Europe. So everybody talks about the Northwest Passage, which may not never happen, okay? But the real Northwest Passage is what I just described, properly establishing a high-speed rail link, Prince Rupert to Churchill, that moves your goods in 2 days, no different than moving it to from Chicago to New Orleans, no different than throwing it on, and all of a sudden, Churchill is the same time distance as Chicago is. So It'd be like putting a container vessel into Chicago and being sitting already in the Atlantic. Well, a bit hard to do it. So these are all changes that are taking place, and as I said, the geographic advantage Canada has is now being exploited in real time with intent. And this is triggered by this so-called trade war, which is already the biggest miscalculation we've seen in decades by the U.S. A true miscalculation. He launched a trade war, and a strategic reason for launching it by hitting everybody meant that he provided cover so he could target certain sectors that he thought were important, okay? But some of those sectors obviously were outright blunders, and they simply hadn't done their homework. How is this going to work? How did it actually work the first time around? Well, the first time around he got deals, which he could understand, but he also warned everybody that this jerk thinks this is a plan that actually has some value. The problem was tariffs at the very best are 5%, 2%, 3%. They're not 50%. That is massively destructive.
Yeah.
And the mere fact that he slapped on 35% is an act of war, because he thought he could fight a war with somebody who would roll over, okay, and then didn't come back to 10%. You might get to do that once, but then everybody's forearmed and are ready for you the second time around. Mm-hmm. And he just found out just how ready they were, because Canada said, "That's very nice. We'll phone you." Never.
We'll call you. Don't call us. We'll call you.
By the way, and you get to read the press releases. We just sold all your aluminium to Germany.
Oh my God.
Oh, by the way, we just shipped a giant shipload of natural gas. We may have to put you on rations.
Fuck.
And oh, by the way, yes, we're now hauling oil through Vancouver to Asia, and they want all we can ship. And then you go and discover that, how much oil do we buy from Canada? 4 million barrels? That's more than, we're producing as much oil as fucking Saudi Arabia. And we're shipping it into the U.S. Northwest to refineries that have been designed to handle just our oil. They can't handle anybody else's oil. So you've got a situation where all your fuel, for half the U.S., essentially, is Canadian fuel going through U.S. refineries that can't do anybody else's oil.
Why can't they do other people's oils? Because we're doing the...
You can't bring it in from Iran. You can't bring it in from...
Oh.
You can't use their oil. And you're not going to pump it uphill to...
I see, because we already have the pipeline.
To Chicago to go and refine.
Because we already have the pipeline set up?
Yeah, the pipeline... And
goes right there.
All goes from Canada into the U.S.
Yeah.
So whatever the hell they think they got, it's a non-starter. They at least did that much fucking homework, but they didn't actually slap a tariff on Canadian oil. That would have been blindingly stupid. Okay? And please, what they did was blindingly stupid. I don't know what to call it. That would have been, machine gunning your foot. Okay?
Yeah.
And so the disaster is that, Canada has been a price taker. Didn't like it.
Meaning
but now the pipelines have opened up, and now the political incentive exists to establish additional pipelines, including even to Churchill. Would love to bring in, ship 5 million barrels of oil a day to Europe, who'd be happy to take it. Mm-hmm. Okay, and so the potential exists for complete disruption of North American support from Canada. It's like sitting down at fucking poker table, not realizing that the guy sitting across the table from you is holding a royal flush. How difficult is this
Yeah.
going to be if it's going to be a real fight? Well, what's happened here is that we said enough is enough. Let us show you what a little fight looks like. And we're not even trying yet. Just realize that the real advantage right now is that the heat he's producing just on aluminium in his political base is unbelievable. Because we're looking at 8 million people who depend on Canadian jobs, Canadian work for jobs. They're going to be unemployed. There's already 100,000 laid off because of these tariffs.
Wow.
It's huge numbers. I mean, the only way back is, quite honestly, he has to cancel all the tariffs and stop the tariff war right now. The sooner the better, because if dragging his feet just means that his replacement will be canceling those same fucking tariffs just as fast as he can.
No kidding.
Because
Yeah,
they're
exactly.
disastrous.
How long does he still have? How much
He's
time
got
does
a
he
lot
still?
of time, but he's
Couple
running out
years.
of time.
Does he have a couple years? How many years is he in now?
He's
1
only
year?
been at it for a while. He doesn't have a lot of time in reality.
Yeah, not for
Okay, in fairness,
Yeah,
um,
not a lot. Sorry, how much time does he have left in office? Is what I'm asking.
2
Think
years at
2
least,
years?
28.
It's 25 right now, so yeah,
Yeah.
3 years. Yeah, okay.
He's got time. The fact is, this is a huge blunder. It has to be recognized that it's a huge blunder, and which the blind, dumb, and stupid are figuring it out. That means everybody who has an ounce of knowledge about trade knows this was really stupid. And what he's done is he's shown the world just how stupid a tariff war happens to be. Okay?
Yay!
That was a really good demonstration.
Lesson for history.
Thank you for history. You've now
You
shown
created
everybody
history,
that this
so we
might
don't should be
the
doing that.
last thing we want to do
Good.
for really good reasons.
Long run, we learned
In the long run,
something.
this is the dumbest thing you can do. So this is a remarkable discovery for a lot of people, okay? Because it is educating the world that tariff wars are a really bad idea, no matter how attractive they sound and how easy it is to sell to the public. Mm-hmm. Okay? It really is the dumbest thing you might be able to do. And why we've always argued strongly for free trade, because it stops the tariff nonsense. And free trade means that you get to the best possible deal in terms of movement, okay?
In terms of what?
You get the best possible deals. Okay, milk goes at proper wholesale costs, not with a
Yeah.
premium.
Yeah.
And it was better to produce milk in Ontario and Wisconsin and New York State and Upper State and what have you. Then that's where you produce your milk, and you all share in your markets. And yes, in the milk industry, is all commodities have, by the way, have some form of supply management or arrangement. The milk industry, you have to organize it because you've got thousands of suppliers.
No kidding, all the farmers.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you think Alcoa doesn't control the supply of aluminium in the U.S., you're out of your effing mind. Okay?
And Alcoa is a Canadian company?
It's a U.S.
Oh, US.
It may as well be a Canadian company now because all its production is in Canada for raw aluminium. They have massively expanded, and everything in the U.S. they've shut down because it is non-economic, and they can't sell aluminium into Europe without being penalized. So why would they produce aluminium in the U.S. when they can make it do it all day and all night in Quebec and never have a problem with getting it into Europe? So these are all massive shifts that are being forced to take place. But and then of course from a manufacturing point of view, the U.S. is basically kneecapped their own industry.
Maybe Trump is trying to make Canada great again.
It wasn't the plan. But really never was the plan.
Maybe that was a facade. Maybe now it's like, whoa, wait a minute.
It's a sheer lack of understanding of how vulnerable the U.S. was. The people that mattered in the U.S. understood that they were strategically dependent on Canada on several core commodities, and because of
Definitely.
Canadian advantages. Okay. Canada has had to struggle to create transportation routes to minimize that dependency that they had on U.S. markets. So
It's huge how much we pay dependent on U.S. market. That's all. I remember working in forestry, and that was it. They're like, oh, U.S. 80% of everything goes to U.S. That's
Yeah.
our plan. That's our
There
business
is no
plan.
other plan.
And we can barely make 20%. Like,
yeah, because we have to take the price. And there's a fight over the price. And the U.S. has obviously made it a political football,
married. I
and
think
has
it's
been
doable.
political as hell for decades. And Canada has struggled to circumvent that because we have a huge. We'd like to sell our wood without have that sort of a bullshit. Now, of course, now we're in a position. We definitely can haul wood to the Orient, to Asia, which is now converting to our types of housing standards. Okay. Our housing systems are very, very successful, even in an Asian environment, because they stand up to a lot of seismic abuse.
I was gonna say, I'm like, they're full of earthquakes and everything falling down.
Stick frame housing built on North American standards don't easily fall apart in an earthquake. Okay? Post and beam construction, which has been the traditional Asian standard, has a bad habit of falling down. Okay? And to do anything more brilliant than that, don't forget that all your high-rise buildings are post and beam. But using earthquake standards, some of those posts are in fact slabs, which prevent
Yeah,
easy breakdown.
concrete. Yeah,
Highly earthquake resistant. But you can't do that with wood. Okay, but you can do it with stick frame. Because guess what? Stick frames are creating walls that have quite a bit of integrity, more integrity than you realize. So, and can it be done infinitely better? Yes, it can be done infinitely better. No need to. It's good enough. Okay, a house. You have an earthquake, your house is damaged, you abandon it. Turn around, clean off the foundations, build a new one. Big deal. It really is that easy.
yeah.
Okay, for restoration. And it's not likely to collapse on top of the owners. It'll fall apart, it'll be broken, walls will be broken, and you'll be crawling, going out of the busted doors, but, they survive. Anyway, so yeah, the whole...
So wrap it up, I guess.
Trade war scenario was blundered into by the U.S. I can only describe it as a no homework done, a very, very facile analysis that supported prejudices and belief systems that tariffs were a benefit. And as economists have pointed out, the lesson taken about the benefits of tariffs in the 19th century simply do not apply today. Because putting tariffs created a umbrella to establish your own industry. Here, putting tariffs creates no umbrella at all because you're dependent on foreign sources for your low-cost inputs.
Yeah.
Everybody has minimized their inputs to go to the best source. When that happens, tariffs are the dumbest thing you can do. They depend on cheap aluminium coming from Canada because we're the only guys that can produce it cheap. 70% of the cost of aluminium comes from the power you use to produce it. You have to go and heat it up, dissolve it in salts, what have you, and you run electrolysis to go and separate out the aluminium. Huge energy suck. Okay.
Yeah.
You can do it with smelting, but that produces lots of carbon problems, and that's banned now in Europe. So you got a huge penalty if you use that. That's the alternative. But we can do it in using nice, great, big electric pots. And now we're switching over our steel industry to electric pot steel. Well, now we have high quality green steel produced by electric power, which is cheap. U.S. can't even start to compete on that because they don't have cheap power.
Very cool.
Simple as that. And so all your inputs are going to be produced by your giant power dams. And what does a power dam have is unlimited power that they can't get rid of because they're too far from most of the markets.
Okay.
You know, half the power is lost just getting it to New York.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, why don't we use that half of power to go and fire up this smelter right next to the dam? And and by the way, we got this rail link to the coast to go and bring in the bauxite from Guyana.
Yeah.
Unload the bauxite at our port, haul it up to the smelter, smelts it, haul back the aluminium, much the same weight, ship off to and we don't have to hear about the U.S. at all. They have nothing to do with it.
Wow. Eh? All right. Well, I think that's this is Bob Klein.
Yeah.
And we'll put this on a YouTube channel or something.
Okay, you ahead.